Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha, Om Shri Saraswataya Namaha, Om Shri Guru Dattatreya Namaha, Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha, Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. So we are doing Shri Eknathi Bhagwat, chapter 2. We will be continuing from verse 49 onwards and sub-verse 664. So the last subject where we ended is, so now the brother of Kavi, that is Hari, is explaining some of the questions which King Janaka had raised. So what is he saying in the end? He says, so the greatest devotees have this state of mind while being surrounded by objects of senses, which is they don't have the aspect called the enjoyment, that is the perception of the sense objects, even if it is in their dream or even if it is in the real time. So that is why we should understand that it is such a devotee who should be called the best. That's what he's saying. So they don't get swayed by anything in their world. So now he's saying, now there is still deeper state of mind about which I shall presently tell you. Please listen. So that is where we are going to begin. So chapter 2, verse 49. One who, being always engrossed in the memory of Lord Hari, is not moved or disturbed by the vikaras such as birth, death, hunger, fear, thirst, lack of food, etc., caused by the worldly life through his body, sense organs, life force, mind and intellect, is called the great devotee, that is Bhagavata. So what is Hari telling here? Let us understand. He's saying, see, one who's being always engrossed in the memory of Lord Hari means what? We have to constantly be thinking of Lord Sri Krishna Bhagwan. We should not think about anything. Otherwise, our mind is going to latch on to that subject and object, and we are going to be continuously dwelling in that. And then what happens? Either we have pain or pleasure. We are constantly swaying between the pairs of opposites. Next, is not moved or disturbed by the vikaras such as birth, death, hunger. See, these are all the most important aspects in our life. A man gets so carried away with birth, death, hunger, and then what happens? Fear, most important. We are afraid all the time. For what? I don't know. We are afraid of everything in our world. Then thirst, lack of food, etc., caused by the worldly life. Because you are in the material world, this is what happens. That is when you are not thinking about Lord Hari. Then through his body, sense organs, life force, mind and intellect, is called the great devotee. Means what? He's talking about one who's not affected at all. Why? Because he's constantly thinking of Sri Hari. So let us understand. There are 5 factors connected with us causing bondage. They are the body, the organs, the mind, the intellect and vitality or the life force. Then hunger, thirst, fear, pain, birth and death are also these disturbances. So let us go one by one. What is the 5 factors which is causing us the bondage? Number 1 are the body. First attachment is the identification with the body. The moment we are born, we get identified with the body. And then all the things associated with the body, like your family, your friends, your relatives, the place, the things, everything is connected with that. Next is what? The organs, the sense organs. The moment you see something, you hear something, you smell something, you eat something, you're always attached to those. When the senses come in contact with the sense objects, so the attachment comes through the sense organs. Next is what? The mind, the greatest of the culprit in our life, which is the mind, which is constantly saying you lot of things. Some thoughts are going on all the time, non-stop. It's like a non-stop nonsense that happens in your mind. So what you should do, you have to only think about Lord Shri Krishna. That is the only way out. Next, the intellect. The intellect also has to be divine intellect. How will that happen? Provided you are constantly chanting the name of Shri Krishna Bhagwan. And vitality or the life force. These are the 5 factors connecting us, causing the bondage. Next is, then comes the hunger. See, food is the most important thing, because while you're attached to the body, food is very important. So we are constantly seeking, we can't take hunger. So food is very important. So if you don't have food, then that is a misery. Next, thirst. Yes, without water, you can't survive. Next is what? Fear. Fear is the greatest factor which drives everything in our world. Because of fear, man gets into a lot of trouble. And this is the fear which is a root cause of all your miseries as well. Let me give you one example. How is it? Fear, simple. So you're thinking tomorrow when you retire, you need to, have a security. For what? You need to have a healthcare plan, healthcare benefits, because you're anticipating that you're going to fall sick when you get old. That fear will drive you to ensure that you're getting an insurance coverage, you're saving your money, whatever that, you're creating a safe plan. But does life work like that? We think we are going to be safe, we are planning for our life, we are planning for our retirement and settlement. All you can do, but please understand, man proposes, God disposes. You don't know what is there in your destiny. So why do you even bother? And see, when you pay an insurance, you're anticipating that tomorrow you're going to fall sick and you're paying the insurance. So that itself, don't you think, is a cause of you falling sick? So why are you thinking that you're going to fall sick? On the contrary, you should be prepared that I'm going to be very healthy and not bother of this insurance. Insurance itself is a bigger, it's a way of making money, which is not understood by people. So don't run after these insurances. It's not going to assure you anything. No assurance through the insurance. This is the truth. So don't be afraid of anything in life. My Guruji was teaching me yesterday some very powerful lesson. You know what he taught me? He said, it is only because you have devotion, it is only because you are dear to the divine Lord. He will not give you things that will put you into bondage. On the contrary, he'll take those things away from you so that you can evolve in your spiritual path and you will not get bound in the material world. You'll not have any karmas associated to anything that you're seeking. So don't seek or don't ask anything. What is right for you, he will provide on his own. That is the most important thing. Then what is there to be afraid? Who's taking care of you? The divine Lord is taking care of you. So he's going to provide you for the rest of your life, whatever that is required for you. And that which is good for you. So fear, get it out of your system. Next, pain. Yeah, pain. Pain, what? It could be pain of anything. It could be mental pain or physical pain. Pain is again a binding factor. Then birth and death are also the disturbances. All these are disturbances in our life. Next, there are great sufferings attendant to these things. This is called the way of life, samsara dharma. But the God as Atman, that is Atmaram, is always pleased and kind with his devotees, and therefore the confusion accompanying the worldly life does not touch them even in dream. How beautiful. So he's talking about the great devotee to whom these things doesn't affect at all. So what is he saying here? There are great sufferings attendant to these things. See, when you are in the material world and you're running after these things, sufferings is a part of those things which you are bound by. So if you're bound by your family, there is going to be suffering. If you're bound by something, wanting to earn money, you're going to suffer. That is a part of the deal. That's how the world works. So then what happens? This is called the way of life. That is samsara dharma. So when you are running behind those kind of things in the material world, okay, he's talking about very clearly saying samsara dharma. It's not the devotee's way of life. It is samsara dharma. In that, when you're bound by these things, then you're going to suffer. But the God as Atman, Atmaram, is always pleased and kind with his devotees. Why is he pleased and kind with his devotees? Please understand. He's telling his devotees, kindly don't get attracted to the material world, which is Maya. Don't run after desires. Don't have desires. Don't run after worldly things. Don't get carried away by lust and greed, because that is only going to bring you grief, misery, and sufferings. There is nothing else you're going to get that. Whatever the things that you might think you're enjoying is only short term. It's momentary enjoyment. And don't mess your life for that momentary enjoyment and suffer for the rest of the life. That is what he's saying. See, what has to come to you will anyway come to you, but you don't run after things. People, places, and things. Give that up. Detachment is the word. Dispassion is the word. And discriminate. Next. And therefore, the confusion accompanying the worldly life does not touch them even in dream. So, because you are devoted to Shri Krishna Bhagwan, we are talking about the highest of the devotee. To them, None of these things will affect, because they are not even into that. See, they are completely detached. They surrender everything to the lotus feet of the divine Lord, and they are very happy with whatever the Lord bestows upon them. They are not looking, they're not running after anything. They don't have the desire. They don't use their mind. They are not getting carried away by what happens in their world, or not what is not happening also. Because both is a problem. If something happens, is fine. If something doesn't happen, still there is a problem. So they don't run after any of those things. So what is being told? The Lord Sri Hari is very kind. Krishna Bhagavan is very kind with his devotees. So he tries, he ensures that they don't get carried away when they are devoted to the divine Lord. So what happens when they are devoted, the worldly life does not touch them, even in the dream. They only sleepwalk. Nothing affects them, whatever is happening around them. Next, normally people suffer greatly when they are hungry. But the devotees are so engrossed in the devotional practices that they are not aware of their hunger. How sweet is this? When you are in a devotion to the divine Lord, you'll forget hunger, thirst, everything. So if whatever the food has to come to you will come automatically without even you seeking it. That's how it works. Every time we conduct a puja here, that is we have any celebrations, on that day I will not even be able to eat even a morsel of food. There's no hunger at all. That whole day is so satiated. I'm already filled. Because when you are lost in the devotional practices, hunger doesn't come to you, neither does thirst exist. And I forcibly have to eat the food because it is a prasad. It's a blessed food. That's how it works. It is the truth. So when the devotees are lost in the devotional practices, please understand, they forget their hunger and thirst. And the food is provided by the divine Lord. Automatically that food will come to them. That's how it works. Then, those devotees who forget their hunger and thirst in their devotional occupations are not afraid of any calamities in the worldly life. They are not bothered about anything. They are not afraid. They are not thinking that I need to attend to something, I have to do something, I don't have food. They don't even care about it. Because they know for sure that Sri Krishna Bhagavan will provide whatever is required for them. They're not even bothered. That is how it works. Then, after all, fear dwells in the mind, and their mind is taken over by thinking about the God. So who will give value to the fear? The mind loses its normal characteristics in the devotional state. See, this is a very important lesson which we must understand. How does this work? What is he saying? After all, fear dwells in the mind. So where is the fear? The fear is in the mind. Who's causing this fear? You have to observe yourself. See, this morning my Guruji taught a very important lesson. So what did he think? What did he teach? He taught you that before you jump into any conclusions, you have to observe the virtues, the defects within yourself than thinking about the other person. First go analyze, why are you feeling that? Now what is the root cause here? Fear. Where does the fear exist? The fear dwells in the mind. So when the fear is there, if you think about anything, what does the mind do? It actually puts fear in everything, doesn't it? So you are already afraid of everything in your life. Even before taking a step forward, you're afraid. You're constantly living in fear. Fear of everything. And you don't even know why you're afraid. In fact, the other people or things or places have not made you be afraid. It is your mind which has created those fears because of lack of knowledge and understanding in life. You have just, taken everything at a face value or based on what your mind has told you. Now, who has made the judgment? It is your mind. So what is that you need to go? You have to first understand the root cause. My Guruji has always told me one thing. Go and do a root cause analysis. Why am I feeling this? Why am I hating somebody, or why am I angry? Why am I going to be upset about something? Why does it upset me? Why am I getting, impatient? Why do I get anger? Why is the question you need to answer. So when you go to the root of it, you will understand where it stems from. Bhagavad Gita chapter 2. What is the root cause of anger? Unfulfilled desires. The root cause is that. Now what is this unfulfilled desires? You need to dig into that, which is creating the problem in you. And when you identify that, trust me, you will be able to, logically analyze. And now come to terms whether that desire, is it even relevant today or not? And are you still holding the desires? See, many a time you might say, I've given up on desires. Today I don't have desires. But that is not the truth. Subconsciously in your mind, in your being, those desires still exist. And you need to bring it out. Till you do not identify what are those desires because of which you are getting angry, because of which you are upset, because of which you are fearful. That is something you need to understand. Just by saying I don't have desires doesn't solve the problem, because the root cause of all anger is the desires. Then the next is fear comes with what? Lack of knowledge. Because you have not made an effort to understand what is right and what is wrong. The right knowledge is important. And if you have not made any effort in that direction, then the fear comes in. And why do you need to be afraid of? Ask this question. Why are you afraid of everything? That is a question you only will be able to answer. So you have to go and think deeply. Where does this fear come from? What is the starting point? And why am I afraid? So till you don't face your fears head on, there is no freedom in your world. Next, because this is very important. Fear and God doesn't go together. So for you to evolve in the devotion, fear is one thing which you have to overcome. Absolute fearlessness is a quality, the divine quality. Number 1 word, chapter 16, Bhagavad Gita, verse 1, starts with absolute fearlessness. So next, what is he saying? Fear dwells in the mind, and their mind is taken over by thinking about the God. So how do you overcome this? When you only think about God, nothing else. You don't have to think about my job, my husband, my children, my family, what will they say, what is society going to say, I have to tell my parents, I have to talk to them. All that doesn't exist at all. So in the devotee's mind, he only thinks about the God. He only contemplates on God. So that way, the fear is already overridden. And he's not afraid anymore, because he has the strength of the divine Lord. He knows his Lord is taking care of him. So there is nothing to be afraid of. What does Sai Baba say? Why fear when I am here? So when you have the divine Lord with you, when you have your Gurudev with you, why are you afraid? That is the faith you need to have. If fear comes to you, which means then there is lack of faith. There is, it is not 100% faith at all. So that is something you have to work. Next. So who will give value to fear? So who's going to give value to fear? Fear itself will run away from that place when you are taking the name of the divine Lord. The mind loses its normal characteristics in the devotional service. So what happens? The mind will stop troubling you. So all its normal characteristics it will lose. Then it will become one with the divine Lord. The mind also becomes in oneness, in devotion. Next. When the senses of duality rises in the mind, the fears of the worldly life increases. But if God abides in such a mind, the duality and the fears are no more. What is he saying? The sense of duality, that I am separate from the divine Lord. I am an individual. I don't know anything. I don't have knowledge. I don't know what I'm going to do. My boss is troubling me. My husband is troubling me. My wife is troubling me. My in-laws are troubling me. The world is troubling me. All this thing comes. Why? Because we are attached to all the objects. But what is the most important thing? The sense of duality has to go away, which is I am not this body. Isn't the same lesson repeating this morning's lesson? Are we also learning the same thing? Yes. Do you see? It's the same lesson. There is no difference. The fears of the worldly life increases. So because of the duality, the fears of the worldly life increases. But if God abides in such a mind, the duality and the fears are no more. But when you keep chanting the name of Krishna Bhagwan, there is no way the fear can exist in that mind. Where there is the name of Krishna Bhagwan, fear has no place. So then the duality and the fears also don't exist. They also disappear. When we are identified with our body, the needs of our body affect us. But if our intellect and the mind begin to remember Hari, they remain adhesive to Hari's feet. This is very powerful. This is a practice you must, apply in your life. What is he saying? When we are identified with our body, the needs of our body affect us. So what is affecting you? When you believe you are the body, then there are needs of your body. What are the needs? I need food. I eat only like this. I need to sleep. I'm feeling pain. Today I need to rest. I need to stretch. So the needs of the body comes. But your attachment doubles that needs. Then what happens? You're only focused on fulfilling the needs of your body. But if our intellect and mind begin to remember Hari, they remain adhesive to Hari's feet. Then what does this mean? When your mind and if your intellect and mind begin to remember Hari. So when you're in the thoughts of the Divine Lord, then what happens? The needs of your body are not going to be troubling you. They are what? They remain adhesive to Hari's feet. They stick to, Hari's feet. So whatever needs to be, your body has the needs, it automatically gets fulfilled. You're not emphasizing, but the more you attach yourself to the body, the more it will say, I need this, I need that, I need to do this, I need to do that. Constantly, you're only thinking of your body. You can't get out of that thought at all. And the body is going on telling you, oh, it's paining now, it's hurting here, I am hungry, I need this. So the attachment to the body only grows, it doesn't reduce. So what is important? Surrender to the lotus feet of Krishna Bhagwan. Keep your mind and intellect focused on Lord Shri Krishna Bhagwan. One of the best ways, just keep playing one bhajan behind, or just keep taking this chant. So when the mind is constantly listening, what happens? There is no thoughts that comes in. So you're working, but there is, behind there's a background. Your mind is only singing those divine bhajans. So that way it becomes like an insulation from other thoughts. Next, then whatever desire emerges in his consciousness, the Lord Narayana becomes manifest in that desire itself. And the desire undergoes transformation into totality. This is a very powerful lesson, and this is the truth. This is very beautiful. What happens? Then, whatever desire emerges in his consciousness, please understand, in your consciousness, there are going to be desires. Okay, that is how it works. Your desires are going to emerge. But the Lord Narayana becomes manifest in the desire itself. Now, this is something very beautiful that happens. In the devotees of the Divine Lord, what does Krishna Bhagwan do? He manifests in that desire itself. Then what happens? And the desire undergoes transformation into totality. Now, let me tell you very simple. I'm going to give you this body's own example. This body had a dream, a desire. I want to become the CEO of IBM. I want to be the chairman of IBM. Okay, that was this body's desire. But what happened when I came into spiritual? When I started my spiritual journey, this desire was expressed by me to my Gurudev. My Krishna Guruji, I expressed it. I want to do this. I want to do all my desires and ambitions I had expressed to him. Then what happens? As you evolve in the spiritual world and you're constantly thinking of Krishna Bhagwan, the Lord Narayana becomes manifest in the desire itself, and the desire undergoes transformation into totality. So what did the transformation happen? I don't want to become the CEO. I don't want to become the chairman of IBM, but I want to serve Krishna Bhagwan. So what did Krishna Bhagwan do? He made this body establish a foundation. And did he give the designation? Yes, managing director, he gave me a designation. But what is the transformation here? Instead of me wanting to become a CEO for my selfish benefit, here the transformation is, I am here to do good in this world, serve the Lord's world. So that desire completely transformed. Why? Because Lord Narayana became manifest in that desire itself. So it is no longer your desire. Now you're fulfilling his desire. I wouldn't say his desire, means his mission. And he has made me that has become now my goal, to serve his purpose. Do you see the transformation, how it happened? From what I wanted, I completely said, I don't want this. But the same thing transformed. That exists exactly what happened. This is just one example. I can give you many examples like this, as this body's own example, because there's so many desires I had. See, every body has its own desires. And you cannot say that I don't have a desire. You don't know. It does exist. And that is something it transforms when you become, devoted in your mind, body, senses, everything. You have to be in oneness with the divine Lord. And then the transformation happens very beautifully. Everything that I wished, I wanted, and I desired today, I don't want any of those things. I just want to be devoted to the divine Lord. Whatever Lord Hari has to bestow, let him bestow. That's it. I just have to follow the path, the way of life, as described by Lord Shri Krishna Bhagwan. Whatever that he's going to give or not give, that's also fine. That's the surrender that will come to you. You'll understand the futility of the world, futility of these petty things that you're desiring. It has no value. And trust me, and the most beautiful thing, what he gives when this desire, when Lord Narayana becomes manifest in that desire, that becomes something much more bigger and so beautiful, which you wouldn't have ever imagined. Your petty desires was only going to take you to downfall, give you misery and sufferings. Imagine just becoming CEO in some company comes with its own miseries and suffering and karma. Today I'm free from that. I'm so grateful that ambition or desire of mine did not fructify. On the contrary, transformed. And today, yes, I am doing something in a similar line, but at a bigger goal. There's a bigger purpose, which is so meaningful. And you know what? It is full of love. It's such a good purpose in this world to do. This is what you need to understand what happens. Then, thus the devotees become desireless by their constant memory of God and remain untouched by sufferings due to sense organs as to listen how it happens. So what is he saying? When the desire undergoes the transformation into totality, it completely changes, okay? Then what happens? Thus the devotees become desireless. You become desireless. You feel, oh, those desires were so stupid. It was back then. Whenever my Guruji reminds me, oh, you wanted to become the chairman and CEO of IBM, you wanted to do this, you wanted to do that. I say, oh, that was back then. I was stupid to even think about that. I was stupid to even wanting that in my life. Because we don't know that the truth is we get carried away by what we see in the material world and we think that is what we have to do in our life. We don't understand what is the real goal or what is our swadharma. You run behind things which has no value. And first of all, I didn't even know what it takes to get there. Most important. Just having an ambition doesn't mean anything. Likewise, even in spiritual world, yes, I want to be the greatest devotee of Krishna Bhagwan. Yeah, that's fantastic. Highest devotee. But when I'm reading Eknath Maharaj's life story, I was saying to my Guruji, I wish, I become at least 1% of what Eknath Maharaj is. Because to be the highest of the devotee or the best of the devotees is not a joke. For which you have to work very hard and you have to do a lot of sadhana. And which means I have a long way to go. That is what I understand. So everything requires hard work. You have to be very sincere. You have to be disciplined and something that you have to do. See, effort. You have to put a lot of effort. It doesn't come easy. But what a human being seeks, they want everything easy. It has to be effortless. But in spiritual world or anything which you are seeking comes with a lot of hard work. And that hard work is something we are not willing to do. And especially in spiritual world, it is not even a joke. So, what is he saying? Thus the devotees become desireless by their constant memory of God and remain untouched by sufferings due to sense organs as to listen how it happens. Now he's saying, how does this happen? They are untouched to the sufferings when the senses come in contact with the sense object. They are not affected. So how do we achieve this is what he's going to start. Okay, we'll do another few words and then we'll stop because there's a big one. The seed of suffering is in the actions of sense organs. But in the case of the devotees of God, instead of suffering taking roots, it is Brahman which becomes completely manifest in the sense organs. This is a very powerful and powerful lesson. Let us understand how does this work. The seed of suffering is in the actions of sense organs. How does it work? See, when you perform any actions, even when you speak, we speak utter nonsense. We don't think before we speak. We say whatever comes to our mind, and we are very judgmental. That is why my Guruji said we should not be bothered about somebody's virtues or, wrong, whatever virtues and whatever they are doing wrong. We should not be bothered about it, or defects. Okay, we have to look into our own and understand how things work. See, we are constantly judging the world, we are constantly looking at people, we kind of assume things, we perceive things, and that is all based on your petty mind's understanding. So what happens? You're constantly in that loop of suffering, because we are judging. You're judging yourself, you're judging the world, you're doing everything, but you're not thinking straight. So what is he saying? The seed of suffering is in the actions of sense organs. You see, you're speaking, you're touching, you're hearing, everything. So all these organs are very active. So in the actions is where the suffering is. Next, but in case of the devotees of God, what happens? Instead of suffering taking roots, it is Brahman which becomes completely manifest in the sense organs. Means what? When you understand that you are not this body and you are in complete oneness and identification with the divine Lord, then that Para Brahman which becomes completely manifest in the sense organs. Whatever you see, you're only seeing Krishna Bhagwan. Whatever you hear, you're hearing about him. Whatever you speak, you're only speaking about him. And whatever you eat, you're eating for him. Everything turns him alone. Then where is the question of any sense organ affecting you? Because every pore of being is only saying and taking and doing everything related to the Para Brahman. The God himself is manifest in it. So then how does any suffering happen to you? It is only when you enjoy. Do you understand? When you enjoy using your sense organ, or what is he saying? The seed of suffering is in the actions of sense organs. What is that you do? When you're enjoying the food, you're not saying the Para Brahman is eating. You're saying, I am eating this food. I love this food. Instead, when you say, Krishna Bhagwan, this is the prasad, I offer this to you, and then you partake of it, then you are not enjoying the food. There is no I there. It is the Para Brahman. But to that level of highest of devotees you have to become. Everything you have to do it for him. When you wear the best of the clothes, you think, oh, I am looking good, I have to look good, so I am wearing this. No, change it. I am, wearing because I have to look good for my Lord. I want to, offer this to him. Offering everything to him. So everything, what does that mean? The Para Brahman is manifest in every action of yours. Then there is no you, I in that. I doesn't exist. Only God exists. Thou. So the oneness is what is very important. Remove that I. So when you hear anything, just hear Krishna Bhagwan's, talks. Sing his praises. Hear only the good things. So then only the divine Lord's things are there. What you see, you are seeing God in everything. Oh, this is Maya. Krishna Bhagwan, you are doing this like that. So in everything you have to only bring him. That oneness has to be experienced. Then what happens? Then it is Brahman which becomes completely manifest in the sense organs. Then what happens? If the devotee looks at something, the Lord Narayana becomes that object. Didn't I just say this? Then if his ears hear some word, Brahman becomes manifest in that sound and the meaning of the word. So everything is Krishna Bhagwan. Very simple example I'll give you. When I first came to my Guruji, and me and my Guruji, the first 1 month, I was driving with him. I still remember the very beautiful song it was, and it was playing. So my Guruji, I was listening to this very beautiful song, and he taught me. The meaning the song was so apt. The lyrics were so apt. The lyrics were something like this. The Lord has come to to make me his. And then my Guruji was saying, can you now everything attribute to Krishna Bhagwan and just, think about this as a prayer that is being told to you or something that you can resonate. What is he saying? They're saying the Lord has come to make you his. So it was in Hindi song. I'm translating to you in English. It was so perfect, that's so apt. At that moment in time, that song was playing, and that day my Guruji taught how everything you can associate with the Divine Lord. And since that moment, every song in my world became magically like Krishna Bhagwan is singing to me and I am singing to him. And it's a one-on-one association, whether it is a love song, whatever song. For me, in every song, it is only Krishna Bhagwan. And I find those beautiful meanings, that attribution to him alone. And that becomes the Parabrahman, everything, that manifestation happens. This is how you have to look at it. Even today, every song is only in attribution to Krishna Bhagwan. There's a very beautiful song. It's talking something like this. It's a Hindi song again. It is saying, I learned how to live after you came into my life. There's a the lyrics are so beautiful. The moment you kept your feet in my heart, I started to learn. My heart opened, my life opened. You are teaching me how to live. You're teaching me how to, live in this world. I'm learning from you how to live. That is such an apt thing. So how do you associate it? You're associating with Krishna Bhagwan. So the same song, isn't it an association with Krishna Bhagwan? That is what he's meaning. So in every sense organs, whatever that action you perform, it has to be performed for the Divine Lord. You have to see him manifest in that. That is what he's explaining. So let me read this once again. If the devotee looks at something, the Lord Narayana becomes that object. If his ears hear some word, Brahman becomes manifest in the sound and the meaning of the word. That is exactly what I explained. So then you will be associating with the Divine Lord. So for me, all these songs have a very profound meaning, because for me, Krishna Bhagwan has manifested in that, and that meaning, those words, in association with him, I listen. And since that day to today, there is no song in the world that I cannot, associate with my Krishna Bhagwan. The most beautiful thing happened. I was in US. I had gone for a conference. And in the conference, it was the last day of the conference, and there was a performance. It was a surprise. And for me, I had a very beautiful, a most beautiful song, a very favorite song of mine by Bruno Mars. And I would always associate this beautiful music with Krishna Bhagwan. And the song is this, it's like, you're perfect in every way. There is nothing I want to change about you. I forgot this lyric, sorry. So something like that. And I like the way you are, or, those kind of words were in that. And I've always loved that song. So suddenly, Bruno Mars himself was performing, and it was a surprise. And when that song was being played, I was in tears. And for me, it's like Krishna Bhagwan has come and played that for me. It was just a magical moment, because the whole conference was tiresome and I was exhausted. And that was the most magical moment. It's like, oh my God, the universe, he's my 1,000 miles apart. And here, that song ended. That whole stress went away. I couldn't feel any pain. That one song destroyed all that stress that I had for so many days, and that exhaustion. And that is magic. That is so beautiful. That is what he's saying. So for you have to be able to see him in everything, live him in everything. So every action of yours has to only connect to Krishna Bhagwan. That is how you become the greatest of the devotee, and how the devotees do also, he's saying. So that's a natural thing that you have to adapt. You have to practice. And everybody has their own method. Everybody's association with God is to his own way. So God is to each his own. You cannot take that away. It's your personal association. You have to feel the devotion for him. Nobody can give you from outside. I'm just giving an example because this was so apt at that time for me to understand how does this work, magic. And I called him and I was crying. It's not for Bruno Mars I cried. I cried for the song because I'm like, oh, Krishna Bhagwan is here telling me I'm there. That's an association. That is how you relate. And that's how it happens. So what we'll do is we will stop here because this is a very important lesson which we need to go in depth. So I'm stopping at chapter 2, verse 49 and subverse 674. And let us continue in our next class. So thank you for joining Shri Ekanathi Bhagavad Satsang. Have a good day and good evening to you all. God bless.
Recording stopped.